One of the defining features of being a person in Los Angeles is being in a space where a lot of people come from a lot of different backgrounds and are just kind of thrown together in a lot of ways. I mean, I can't think of another city that has so many different types of people from so many different places, all, living together and working together and making art together. This is a project where we ask 6 writers and 6 composers to collaborate and come up with stories about being between identities in Los Angeles.
Interstitial grew out of our mutual love of musical storytelling. It's all about the fluidity that exists between things in LA. These can include anything from race, gender, national identity, literature, or even food. The project is sort of a cantata, maybe an opera, perhaps a song cycle. I guess it's completely between genres, in much the same way we hope that the stories that emerge are the stories of LA, but seen through completely different perspectives.
What does it mean to be an Angelino, right? Is it like the Hollywood starlet? Is it the person whose family has been here since it was Mexico? I think we were most interested in people who find themselves between different strong identities. So for instance, I grew up in a multicultural household where my mother is from Bahrain, she's Arabian, and my father is Persian, he's from Iran. And so even within that, right, I'm half Arab and I'm half Persian, but I was born and raised in America. So many people have these really interesting kind of stories, but we had that framing in mind as we were looking for different composers and different librettists.
Living and working in LA is almost like being a kid in a candy store. There's so many wonderful creative minds to work with and be inspired by. We have 6 poets, 6 composers, 6 singers, and 6 musicians who all make their home in LA. But each of us also identifies with other cities, with other countries, with other backgrounds. So this project is all about the fluidity of storytelling.
There's so much space in opera, and I feel like I wish people knew how accessible it is. I went into it thinking, okay, well, the composer is king, I'm just gonna work for them and I'm gonna do whatever they say, but really, I think this amazing sort of new energy emerges from that relationship between the composer and the librettist.
It's always a dialogue, ensuring that either of our respective arts, are flexible enough to give space for the other. I grew up in a Catholic country. I grew up in the Philippines with parents who are Chinese. So there's always this cross-section of Buddhism and Catholicism and Christianity that existed around me. The librettist that I'm working with, Brian Sonia-Wallace, we've always dreamt about a bathhouse opera. We wanted to explore the idea of flesh and how that, or lust, flesh, lust, and how that interfaces with the gay identity.
I think of the way that we all hyphenate ourselves sort of in our lives. And for me, the big one is I am Indian American. That's what I identify as. And figuring out what that means for me in my life has been a lifelong process. I have existed in a world of classical music for most of my life that it does not have a lot of people that look like me. More and more there are, which is great, but for the majority of my life growing up and in conservatories and in my early jobs, very few people looked like me. And I never saw myself reflected back in any of the music that I was playing or in any of what I was being taught to do. We need to find a way to engage younger people, people from all different backgrounds and communities and bring people into the concert hall or wherever it is and engage them in what we're doing in a way that feels real.
We're in such a moment right now where representative art is in vogue and is highly desirable, that I think we keep on getting pulled into, this is a piece about identity and about representation. And I really don't think it is. I think that's a starting point, and then we want people to tell whatever stories that they want to tell.
It's so funny because we're talking about like the ideas and identity and all of the sort of philosophy behind it, but for me as a librettist, it's just the sound. Like, it's the sound of the words. It's the way the rhythm makes you feel. And it's like, can you experience this bodily as opposed to like processing it intellectually?
So Hex is an iteration of the new music vocal sextet that's popping up in lots of other places in the country. A lot of the singers that I found for Hex also do opera, or they kind of, they're great choristers and they're great soloists.
The Brightwork Ensemble is a Pierrot plus percussion ensemble, which is sort of like to the 20th century what the string quartet was to the 19th century. What's fun about this process and this creative process in general is I don't know what's going to come out of it. I have no idea. That's part of the fun. We're hopeful to, premiere this in Los Angeles, tour the area, break it out into California, and then, hopefully go to the East Coast and maybe overseas to present some of this. And who knows? We're talking about a multiplicity of identities. There may be another version of this project in 5 years with new librettists and new composers and new takes on the idea of being in between identities in a place like Los Angeles.
When we first started talking about this project, we imagined the performance taking place in a library, surrounded by books full of their own stories. Hopefully this will be a project that can be transported to different libraries or communities around LA and presented to a wide demographic.
I really hope that this project will be something completely different from what people are used to seeing in a concert setting. I hope it will be really accessible and easily enjoyed by people. And that's not to say that it's not challenging and that it's not demanding of the audience, but that an audience can come in, experience this project, and come away feeling more connected to what they heard and the people around them.
Identity doesn't always have to be this like heavy conceptual thing, we all have so much more in common than we think, and I think music is like the best way to understand that.